First Contact and Fast Food. Senior Analyst Crixa of the Galactic Confederation's Cultural Assessment Division stared at the holographic display with all three of her sensory stalks twitching in disbelief. The massive structure floating before her defied every conventional understanding of human military installations. Instead of the expected weapon arrays and shield generators, the orbital station was dominated by what appeared to be thousands of food preparation and distribution centers. "Run the analysis again," she commanded her AI assistant. "There must be some error in our scans." "Analysis confirmed, Senior Analyst," the AI responded. "The human installation designated Food Court Alpha contains 2,347 individual food service units, with 60% classified as fast food restaurants. Primary among these is an entity designated Burger King, which occupies strategic positions throughout the station." Crix's epidermis shifted from its normal silvery sheen to a troubled purple. When the Confederation had first encountered humanity 5 years ago, they'd dismissed the species as a minor player in galactic politics. Humans were confined to a single star system. Their technology was centuries behind the galactic standard, and their military capabilities seemed laughably primitive. Then came the Rigel incident. A Confederation patrol fleet had attempted to establish a quarantine zone around Earth's solar system, standard procedure for newly discovered civilizations. The humans responded not with the expected diplomatic protests or futile military resistance, but by launching what they called Operation Drive-Through. The memory still caused Crix's chromatophores to pulse with anxiety. The humans had modified their cargo ships into what they called mobile restaurants, positioning them throughout the quarantine zone. Within days, crew members from the patrol fleet began reporting unusual behavior among their colleagues. Officers were making unauthorized stops at these vessels, trading valuable resources for something called a whopper. Discipline broke down as crew members became obsessed with trying the new limited-time menu items. "Display the resource allocation data," Crixa ordered, forcing her thoughts back to the present. The statistics materialized before her. 35% of human military spending was now dedicated to what they termed morale enhancement through strategic cuisine deployment. Her assistant chimed in. "Of note, Senior Analyst, human military recruitment has increased 300% since the implementation of their Universal Free Meal program. Their marketing campaign, Join the Fleet, Never Miss a Treat, has been particularly effective." Crixa began composing her report to the High Council, her appendages moving swiftly across the holographic interface. The implications were staggering. The humans had somehow weaponized their own inefficiency, turning their bizarre obsession with elaborate food preparation into a strategic advantage. "Include the psychological analysis," she instructed her assistant, "particularly the section on what humans call comfort food and its effects on their combat effectiveness." The data was troubling. Human soldiers provided with regular access to these fast food establishments showed a 47% increase in combat efficiency. More alarming were the results when access was restricted. The condition humans termed hangry made them simultaneously more aggressive and more unpredictable. A notification pulsed at the edge of her visual field. "Senior Analyst, new intelligence received. The humans have begun franchising their food service operations to non-human worlds." Crixa's entire body stiffened. "Show me." The holographic display shifted to show a bustling space station in the Vega sector. There, beneath the familiar golden arches of another human food chain, a line of various species waited patiently. Confederation citizens, independent traders, even members of the notoriously isolationist Successful Hive were all queuing for something called a Big Mac. "Initiate emergency protocols," Crixa commanded, her voice trembling. "Flag this report for immediate High Council review. Classification: urgent strategic threat." As she watched the endless stream of beings flowing through the human food courts, Crixa realized the Confederation had made a terrible mistake. They had dismissed human fast food as a sign of cultural inefficiency, a weakness to be exploited. Instead, it had become humanity's most potent weapon in their quiet conquest of the galaxy. The humans didn't need advanced weapons or overwhelming military might. They were taking over the galaxy one burger at a time. And the most terrifying part was that their victims were eagerly participating in their own submission. Crixa added a final note to her report. Recommendation: immediate classification of all human fast food corporations as strategic military assets. Special attention to be paid to the entity known as Burger King. Their slogan, "Have it your way," may be more than just marketing. It could be the most brilliant psychological warfare campaign the galaxy has ever encountered. The taste of victory. High Commander Zixus of the Confederation Joint Military Command had faced many crises in his 3-century career. He'd navigated the Nebula Wars, survived the Quantum Plague, and even managed to broker peace with the Silicon Consciousness. But nothing in his extensive experience had prepared him for the situation currently unfolding at Joint Base Harmony. "What do you mean they're refusing to fight?" he demanded, his crystalline form vibrating with frustration. Lieutenant Commander Turl, his aide, projected the latest report into the air between them. The human contingent has declared what they're calling a strike. They're demanding the immediate reinstatement of their fast food privileges. 3 cycles ago, in what Zixus had thought was a routine efficiency improvement, he'd ordered the replacement of all food preparation facilities with standard nutrient dispensers, the same units used by every other species in the Confederation military. It had seemed logical. Standardized nutrition delivery would streamline operations and reduce resource consumption by 47%. The humans had disagreed, violently. "Show me the situation on the ground," Zixus ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing the entrance to the base's main compound. There, hundreds of human soldiers sat in neat rows, holding what appeared to be primitive written communication devices. The signs read, "No fries equals no flies. Give me liberty, and give me French fries." And perhaps most puzzling, "Where's the beef?" "They've established what they call a picket line," Turl explained. "No human personnel will cross it. They're also preventing supply ships from docking unless they're carrying what they term real food." Zixus's crystalline structure refracted light in patterns indicating deep distress. Have they forgotten we're in the middle of a war? The swarm could attack at any moment. "They're aware, sir," their spokesperson, Lieutenant Chen, stated, and I quote, "Can't fight the swarm on an empty stomach, and that nutrient-paste garbage doesn't count as filling." The situation had become even more complicated when several non-human crews had begun joining the protest. A group of Arcturian warriors, renowned for their stoic dedication to duty, had been caught attempting to smuggle in something called double cheeseburgers. Even more surprisingly, a contingent of hive mind workers had developed what they called cravings for human pizza. "Sir," Tural's voice took on a more urgent tone, "we're receiving reports that human fast food corporations are offering to franchise directly to our troops. Something called Burger King is promising to install outlets on every Confederation capital ship. They're calling it the Whopper War effort." Zixus moved to the window of his command center, gazing out at the stars. The human approach to warfare had always confused him. They were the only known species that dedicated massive resources to what they called comfort in military operations. The Confederation had always viewed this as a weakness, but now, "Show me the combat effectiveness statistics from before the nutrient dispenser implementation," he ordered. The numbers appeared before him, and for the first time in his long career, Zixus felt his crystalline form crack slightly with shock. Under the human fast food system, joint human-alien crews had shown a 60% increase in combat effectiveness. Morale had been at historic highs. Even more surprisingly, interspecies cooperation and cultural exchange had flourished around what humans called lunch breaks. A new alert flashed across the holographic display. "Sir," Tural's voice was hesitant, "the swarm has been detected approaching the Gamma sector. But there's something else. We're picking up unusual transmissions from their high ships." "What kind of transmissions?" "They're requesting menu suggestions. Apparently, some of their scout ships encountered something called a drive-through, and now the entire swarm is demanding access to human fast food establishments. Zixus stood in silence for a long moment, his crystalline form reflecting the starlight in complex patterns. Finally, he spoke. "Contact Lieutenant Chen. Tell them we're ready to negotiate. And," he paused, his voice modulator expressing what in a human would have been a sigh, "see if you can find out what a whopper actually is." As Turl hurried to comply, Zixus reviewed the human cultural documents again. Perhaps there was something to their strange philosophy of food bringing people together. And if it could bring together humans and the swarm, well, maybe it was time for the Confederation to reconsider its position on the strategic importance of French fries. Operation Deep Fryer. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the THS Comfort, humanity's newest class of combat support vessel, watching as the massive ship's food production facilities operated at maximum capacity. The vessel, nearly 3 kilometers long, wasn't just a restaurant. It was humanity's secret weapon in the ongoing swarm conflict. "Status report," she commanded, eyes fixed on the tactical display, showing hundreds of swarm vessels approaching their position. "All fryers operational, Admiral," her XO, Commander Rodriguez, reported. "Kitchen crews are maintaining peak output. The drive-through defense network is fully deployed." The innovative defense system had been humanity's response to the swarm's overwhelming numbers. Thousands of autonomous delivery drones, each carrying carefully prepared menu items, formed a protective screen around the human fleet. The swarm, having developed an insatiable appetite for human cuisine, would have to choose between attacking and placing their orders. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving transmission from the swarm queen herself." Chen nodded. "Put her through." The holographic image of the swarm queen materialized on the bridge, her insectoid features somehow managing to convey impatience. "Admiral Chen, your fleet stands in our way. We demand immediate access to your food production facilities." "Your Majesty," Chen replied calmly, "as we explained, Burger King franchising rights are available through proper diplomatic channels. Attempting to take them by force violates at least 15 intergalactic commerce regulations." The swarm queen's antennae twitched irritably. "Your human bureaucracy moves too slowly. Our drones demand satisfaction." The newest Impossible Whopper advertisement has driven them into a feeding frenzy. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Marketing had done their job well. "Perhaps we could come to an arrangement. We're prepared to offer immediate franchise rights to your entire fleet, under certain conditions." The tactical display showed the swarm ships halting their advance, their formation breaking slightly as drone crews likely argued about menu options. The Queen's compound eyes narrowed. "What conditions?" "First, immediate cessation of all hostilities in human space. Second, adoption of standardized health and safety regulations for all food service installations. And third," Chen paused for effect, "your fleet must agree to exclusively use our new mobile payment app." The bridge crew held their breath as the Queen considered the terms. The mobile payment app had been Intelligence's idea. Not only would it provide valuable data on swarm consumption patterns, but the loyalty points system would make them dependent on continued good relations with humanity. "Your terms are acceptable," the Queen finally declared. "But we demand immediate installation of at least one Burger King outlet on each of our primary high ships. And we want the special sauce recipe." "The sauce recipe remains classified," Chen replied firmly. "But we can offer your crews priority access to our new spicy chicken sandwich promotion." The effect was immediate. The swarm fleet's formation dissolved completely as individual ships began maneuvering for better positions in the drive-through lanes. Victory achieved without a single shot fired. Later, in her private quarters, Chen reviewed the after-action report. The operation had been a complete success. Not only had they avoided a costly battle, but the revenue from the swarm fleet's first day of orders had already covered the cost of building the THS Comfort. Her comm unit chimed. "Admiral," Rodriguez's voice came through. "The Confederation Strategic Command is requesting an emergency meeting. Apparently, the success of Operation Deep Fryer has caused quite a stir. Several other species are now demanding their own fleet-wide fast food distribution networks." Chen leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smile crossing her face. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the universal appeal of a well-made burger and fries. "Tell them we'll meet," she replied, "and have the marketing team prepare a presentation on our new franchise expansion program. I think it's time to introduce the galaxy to the concept of a dollar menu." As she looked out at the stars, now dotted with the running lights of thousands of delivery drones, Chen couldn't help but feel proud. Humanity had turned its greatest perceived weakness, its obsession with fast, convenient, tasty food, into its greatest strength. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would its food courts. The secret sauce. Dr. HFY, lead researcher of the Confederation's Strategic Analysis Division, stared in mounting frustration at the failed experiment before him. His laboratory, once a pristine center of scientific inquiry, now resembled what humans called a kitchen after a rush hour. Computer, record test, result number 2947. He chittered, his mandibles clicking in annoyance. Another failure in our attempt to replicate the human's secret sauce. Chemical composition matches exactly, yet test subjects unanimously reported, just doesn't taste the same. The massive research facility, hidden beneath the surface of Europa, represented the Confederation's largest investment in understanding human food culture. After Operation Deep Fryer's success, the High Council had finally acknowledged that humanity's culinary capabilities represented a strategic asset they couldn't ignore. "Professor," his assistant Yerkes-12 called from across the lab, "the latest behavioral study results are in. You'll want to see this." The holographic display sprang to life, showing footage from their observation of human fast food establishments across the galaxy. The data was perplexing. Analysis confirms that humans will wait in line for up to 47 minutes for what they call a limited-time offer item. Yerkes-12 reported, even when identical nutritional resources are readily available elsewhere. HFY-7's sensory tendrils writhed in confusion, and they consider this normal. Not only normal, but desirable. "We've documented humans traveling significant distances to participate in something called a product launch. The mockery phenomenon alone has required a separate research division." The professor moved to his primary research station, where a perfectly reconstructed Burger King Whopper sat under analysis beams. They had replicated every aspect. The exact ratio of ingredients, the precise cooking temperature, even the specific fold pattern of the wrapper. Yet something was still missing. "Show me the psychological impact data again," he ordered. The numbers were clear. When consuming fast food prepared by humans, subjects showed increased levels of satisfaction, improved social bonding, and what humans termed happiness. When consuming the exactly replicated versions produced in the lab, these effects were drastically reduced. "Perhaps," Yerkes-12 suggested, "we're approaching this from the wrong angle. The humans have a saying, made with love." HFY-7's dismissive gesture scattered light across his crystalline exoskeleton. "That's precisely the kind of unscientific nonsense that—" He paused, his scientific mind suddenly racing. "Wait, display the molecular scan of human-prepared food versus our replications." The comparison appeared before them. At first glance, they were identical, but when they adjusted for quantum variations, "Impossible," HFY-7 whispered. The human-prepared food showed subtle quantum entanglement patterns, microscopic variations that their replication process couldn't capture. Somehow, the very act of human food preparation altered the quantum state of the molecules involved. "Sir," Yerkes-12 interrupted his revelation, "we're receiving reports from the franchise observation network. The humans have just announced something called a happy meal." Early data suggests it's having an unprecedented effect on juvenile members of various species. HFY felt his scientific worldview crumbling. They had approached human fast food as a technological and chemical challenge, but it was becoming clear that they'd missed something fundamental. The humans weren't just preparing food. They were infusing it with something that their most advanced science couldn't quantify. "Begin new research protocol," he announced. "Forget replication. I want to understand this human concept of comfort food. And get me everything we have on something called secret family recipes." As his research team scrambled to comply, HFY found himself doing something very uncharacteristic for a being of pure logic and science. He was craving a cheeseburger. Not a replicated one, but a real, human-made cheeseburger, with all its inefficient, illogical, wonderfully satisfying qualities. Maybe, he reflected, that craving was the secret they'd been missing all along. The humans hadn't just created a food distribution network. They'd tapped into something far more powerful, the universal desire for comfort, satisfaction, and a side of fries. A seat at the table. Grand Arbiter Zena of the Galactic Confederation stood at the viewport of Harmony Station's central dome, watching ships from 1,000 worlds move through the busy space lanes. 10 years had passed since the humans had transformed galactic society with their fast food revolution, and she still couldn't quite believe how much had changed. Below her, the station's massive central plaza, once a sterile meeting space, had become the galaxy's most famous food court. Species that had once been mortal enemies now sat side by side at gleaming tables, sharing what humans called combo meals. "The annual report is ready, Grand Arbiter," her aide announced, materializing beside her. The holographic display sprang to life, showing statistics that would have been impossible a decade ago. Interspecies conflict was down 78%. Cultural exchange programs had increased by 300%. The galactic economy was booming, driven by what economists now call the French fry factor. "And the humans?" Zena asked. "Still full of surprises, Arbiter. Their latest innovation is something called Fusion Friday. They're combining traditional fast food with cuisine from various alien cultures. The hive mind's honey-glazed chicken nuggets are particularly popular." Zena moved through the plaza, her crystalline form reflecting the colorful signs of countless restaurants. A group of swarm drones waited patiently in line at Burger King, their antennae twitching in anticipation. Nearby, a silicon consciousness unit was attempting to understand the concept of a kid's meal toy. She paused at a historical marker, a simple plaque commemorating what historians now call the First Fry Revolution. It showed an image of the original THS Comfort, the ship that had turned potential war into the galaxy's most successful franchise opportunity. "Grand Arbiter," her aide interrupted her reflection. "They're ready for you in the council chamber." Today's meeting would have been unthinkable in the old Confederation. Representatives from every spacefaring species were gathering not to discuss war or politics, but to debate the newest addition to the Galactic Charter, the universal right to good food. The council chamber had been redesigned, replacing the old formal podiums with what humans called a food court seating arrangement. The theory was that no one could remain too angry while sharing a basket of onion rings. As Zena took her place at the central table, she noted how each species had adapted human food culture to their own needs. The swarm had developed special mandible-friendly burger holders. The energy beings had created ethereal versions of French fries that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Even the notoriously picky silicon consciousness had developed a way to appreciate the aesthetic qualities of a well-stacked burger. "Before we begin," she announced to the assembled representatives, "I believe humans have a tradition for moments like this. They call it a toast." She raised a beverage container designed to be compatible with every known species biology. Another human innovation. To the power of food to bring us together, and to the species that taught the galaxy that the path to peace might just run through a drive-through window. The chamber erupted in what humans would call cheers, though it came in 1,000 different forms, from the crystalline chiming of her own people to the subsonic hums of the energy beings. Later, in her private office, Xena reviewed the latest intelligence reports. Humanity's influence continued to spread, with new innovations emerging daily. The latest trend was something called intergalactic food trucks, mobile restaurants that could jump between star systems, bringing their unique flavors to the farthest reaches of space. Her communication panel chimed. Grand Arbiter, Earth's representatives are requesting to add something called a desert menu to the next council session. Xena felt her crystalline form vibrate with what she had learned to recognize as amusement. Just when the galaxy thought it had figured humans out, they introduced something new. "Approve it," she ordered. "And add a personal note. Tell them thank you, not just for the food, but for teaching the galaxy that sometimes the greatest diplomatic tool isn't a weapon or a treaty, but a simple meal shared with someone different from yourself." As she looked out at the bustling food court below, where countless species gathered in peace around tables laden with Earth's greatest contribution to galactic civilization, Xena couldn't help but reflect on how wrong they'd all been. They had dismissed human fast food as a sign of inefficiency, a weakness to be exploited. Instead, it had become the foundation of a new galactic order, one built not on power or fear, but on the simple pleasure of breaking bread together, even if that bread happened to be a hamburger bun.